Hello, I'm Steve Campion, Club Growth Director for Toastmasters District 71. In this video, I'm going to explain our strategy for growing new clubs. I'll also share some insights that I've gained from districts around the world. There's going to be plenty of information and plenty of PowerPoint, so grab yourself a coffee. I've previously said that our strategy is simple.
To engage with employers in targeted areas to create new clubs. If you're watching this video, it means that you're interested in the answer to that most important of questions. Why? Why have we chosen this strategy? Why is it the right approach for our district, and why do we need a club growth strategy at all? Before I get to answering all those questions, let's start with a few definitions. What does strategy even mean? And what do we mean when we talk about growing new clubs? Well, it seems that there are a lot of ideas about strategy. Let's consider what some academics think. Michael Porter, professor at Harvard Business School, defines strategy as being about making choices, trade-offs. It's about deliberately choosing to be different. And his 5 forces model is known to many business school students. Henry Mintzberg, another management scholar, describes it more as a pattern in a stream of decisions. His argument is that strategy is emergent and it's based on historical activities as much as future decisions. There's another school of thought that it's about value creation. Clayton Christensen defines it as the plan to create unique value. A proposition that justifies why some customers will choose you over others. And no discussion of strategy is complete without considering Sun Tzu, an ancient military strategist from the 5th century BC. He wrote, "Strategy is the art of making use of time and space. It is the path for making favourable decisions." So there are plenty of arguments about what strategy is and what it isn't. And if you want the reading list, well, I'll add it in the description of this video. But to summarise, it's pretty clear that good strategy should take into account where we are right now and our current capabilities. It should consider the world we now live in and what we expect from the future. Above all, it should help the organisation achieve its purpose, its reason for being. Strategy should help make it clear to everyone what we're seeking to do and not do. By defining it clearly, we help people make decisions about where to focus our limited resources and time. Let's use Netflix as an example of where strategy makes a difference and how strategies evolve. When Netflix first started in 1997, it was a DVD rental service. There were plenty of other similar services around at the time, like Blockbuster. But Netflix differentiated their services in some interesting ways. They delivered the DVDs through the mail rather than through retail stores. People paid a regular subscription rather than per rental, and there were no late fees, which was a substantial part of Blockbuster's revenue. I remember using their services back in those days, and it was a great way of watching my favourite TV series. Then, when home broadband services became more prevalent and seeing the success of services like YouTube, Netflix were able to evolve their model, reaching more people in new ways. There are parallels with the way that Toastmasters International has evolved in the 100 years since it started. The first speech manual was called the Basic Training Manual, which later became the Competent Communicator Manual until it was replaced by Pathways, our current education programme. In a world where there are so many things we could do, a clear strategy helps us focus. Does that mean that good strategy is the solution to everything? No, it isn't. Elizabeth Jordan, our immediate past district director, often talked about pulling together with purpose. In the introduction to his book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Patrick Lencioni writes, "Not finance, not strategy, not technology. It is teamwork that remains the ultimate competitive advantage, both because it is so powerful and so rare." I'm not going to argue with Patrick Lencioni, but I do believe that the combination of teamwork and strategy is even more powerful. It helps make sure we are all rowing in the right direction. In summary, strategy is like a compass. It provides direction on how to achieve the purpose of the organisation, and it helps us make decisions about where to spend our time and resources. Now that we know that strategy is about making decisions, I guess we should decide whether we need a district strategy to grow new clubs. Well, first of all, let's define what the purpose of a district is. The district mission is to build new clubs and help all clubs in achieving excellence. That makes it clear that we need to build new clubs. In fact, it's so important that it forms 50% of the mission. Building new clubs helps more people experience the benefits of Toastmasters. It broadens our network, and it brings in important resources that allows the organisation to invest for the future. And if we're going to be building new clubs, what is the purpose of the clubs that we're building? The mission of a Toastmasters club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every individual member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth. It's a bit of a mouthful, but for those of us who are Toastmasters, we joined because we decided that we could benefit from this experience. In other words, we not only need to build new clubs, but we need to build clubs that are capable of providing that positive learning environment. If we're going to do that effectively and in a way that's sustainable for the long term, well, I guess we need a strategy. So what have we covered so far? Strategy provides direction on how we achieve the purpose of the organisation and helps us make decisions about where to spend our time and resources. Our district needs to build new clubs. It forms 50% of our mission statement, and by doing so we can help more people experience the benefit of Toastmasters, broaden our network and bring in important resources that allows the organisation to invest for the future. And finally, we need the new clubs to be sustainable and capable of creating the positive learning environment that we're all looking for. Now that we know what we need to do, how do we craft a strategy that works for us? Let's consider a few options. These are all reasonable approaches, and they're all used by different districts around the world based on their local needs. Our options are fill in the gaps, build complementary clubs, split existing clubs, build university or college clubs, special interest clubs, or engage with employers. Let's consider each one in turn. For fill in the gaps, under this strategy, we'd look at a map to work out where there aren't any nearby Toastmasters clubs and then work out how to create them. If we look at our own district's map, we can see that there are gaps around Sligo in Ireland and the UK's Lake District, the borders of Scotland and the Scottish Highlands. In my own experience of starting new clubs, I've found that having existing Toastmasters who are willing to support the club and mentor new members is essential. If it's too far for Toastmasters to travel, then it's more difficult to build the sustainable clubs that we want, and it's also harder for the club members to get involved in area activities. I was recently speaking with the club growth director for one of the districts in Australia. She talked to me about a club that was 150 kilometres away from their nearest club. I don't think we'd have the same challenges in our district, but the filling in the gap strategy can be tricky to implement if there aren't people willing to travel, and it has the potential to leave some clubs and some people isolated. The building complementary clubs strategy is based on the idea that there are existing successful clubs in a location, and we can achieve growth by creating additional clubs in that same place. For example, if all the clubs in a town or city meet in the evening, maybe there's potential for a club that meets at lunchtime. Maybe we can build clubs that meet at the weekend if all the current ones meet during the week, or a club that meets in a different part of the town. This is certainly an appealing option and works well in places where there are existing clubs and high levels of demand. So how do we assess levels of demand and the potential for expansion? Well, there are two factors to consider: the number of existing clubs compared with the population of the town or city, and the number of members in those clubs. If there's a large population and very few clubs, it suggests that there's room for expansion. If there are clubs with a small number of members, then we should address the reasons for the low membership. we should remember that our district's growth plans don't just work in isolation. They're complemented by all our other activities to support our existing clubs. A final consideration here is to look at demographic trends overall. If the population of a place is growing, then it means that there are more people that would benefit from Toastmasters. The strategy of splitting existing clubs is similar to building complementary clubs. It works when there are a large number of clubs with a large number of members, and where those clubs are getting too big to be able to provide the education programme effectively. This is when it makes sense to form two committees and to turn one club into two. We do have a small number of clubs in our district where this could work, and we'll certainly be talking to those individual clubs about it. But until we have a large number of clubs with a large number of members, it doesn't make for a sustainable strategy. The strategy of building university or college clubs has worked very well in districts where there are large universities or colleges, and where being a member of Toastmasters is seen as something that improves employability. It is a popular approach in the districts in India, but it's yet to catch on in a big way elsewhere. In District 71, we have a small number of university and college clubs, and we already have a group working on how we can best maximise these opportunities in the future. But as a district, we haven't yet built the expertise that we would need to make this a viable strategy. I personally believe it would be a good strategic option in the future though, so we should continue to explore it. The special interest clubs approach is based on starting clubs that are designed for specific groups. For example, people that use a specific language, work in a certain profession, or share a specific hobby. Often these clubs are called advanced clubs because they're targeted at people who are already members of a Toastmasters club and who are looking for something in addition to what they're getting from their home club. Clubs designed for people with dual membership are great for building relationships and helping people develop specific skills, but they don't increase the number of people that are benefiting from the Toastmasters experience. If we look around the world at the districts with a high number of special interest clubs, they tend to have a high concentration of clubs within cities that have more than 1 million inhabitants, for example, in Abu Dhabi or Singapore. The last option we'll consider is engaging with employers. Another way of looking at this is to consider the mix we have between community clubs and organisational clubs, and also look at what proportion of our members have their dues paid by their employers. Unfortunately, we don't have any hard data about which of our members have their dues paid by their employers. From conversations with a few club treasurers and having been a treasurer myself, it definitely does happen, but only in the minority of cases. We do have information about the mix between community and organisational clubs though. Of the 132 districts around the world, only 5 of them have a higher proportion of community clubs than we do. These include Korea, Germany and the Nordic countries, Perth in Australia and part of New South Wales in Australia, and also Japan. District 91, our nearest neighbour, has almost twice as many organisational clubs than our district. If we look at all the clubs around the world that were established within the last 5 years and are still active, over half of them are within organisations, and this shows that districts that have pursued this strategy have been successful. Engaging with employers doesn't just mean building corporate clubs though. By engaging with employers, we can educate them on the benefits that Toastmasters can bring to their team. I've heard of many cases where a company doesn't have its own club, but still encourages its employees to join a local community club. This means that the employer benefits, and so do the nearby community clubs. There's another advantage of this approach. We've often talked about the benefits of encouraging younger people to join Toastmasters. It means that they get more benefit in their lives and careers, and our clubs gain new talents and perspectives. Employers need to attract people to join their organisations, and younger people in particular are often looking for more than just a job. They're looking for opportunity to grow their skills and have an impact. I remember recently interviewing someone at work, and she was much more interested in the training available and the projects where she could develop her skills than any other aspect of the job. And oh yeah, she did get the job. To summarise, we've considered 6 distinct approaches to growing new clubs. We can fill in the gaps, and that needs suitable places and existing members willing to travel. We can build complementary clubs, which is suitable for areas of high demand. We can split existing clubs, which works if we've got many large clubs with lots of people in them. We could build university or college clubs, which works when the district has got good experience with this model. We can consider special interest clubs, which is a great niche approach. Districts that have had success with this model have mainly had clubs concentrated in large cities. And finally, we can engage with employers. Now, to do that, we need to make the Toastmasters programme attractive to organisations. If we look at these and consider which approaches are most suitable for District 71, it looks like engaging with employers and building complementary clubs come out top. We know from looking around the world that working with employers to build organisational clubs works. The fact that our district doesn't do it very much makes us a real outlier. We also know that it is possible to grow clubs in targeted areas. For example, the population of Dublin in Ireland is similar to the population of Auckland in New Zealand. There are around 20 clubs in the Dublin area and 67 in Auckland. Similarly, Manchester in the UK is a comparable size to Atlanta in the USA. We have 5 clubs in the Manchester area and there are almost 90 in Atlanta. While there are many things that make our district unique, the experiences of clubs and districts around the world can give us helpful insights and confidence. So why don't we combine the best of both approaches? If we identify the areas where we have the most potential for expansion and then target employers in those areas, we build a great foundation for greater growth and stability. By doing that, we create more opportunities for our current and future members. And that, my fellow Toastmasters and fellow leaders, leads us to our simple strategy: to engage with employers in targeted areas to create new clubs. How we achieve that is a topic for another day. This video is definitely long enough. I welcome your feedback. Has this helped explain how we think about strategy and growth? Is there something that could be better or an area where you would like more information? What ideas do you have about how we can best achieve our purpose? I invite you to join the conversation. Get involved. Thank you.